So Cassie, welcome back. I know you've been on the podcast before. Episode 46 is the one where you were on initially, and I've listened to that one like 4 times because there's so much information in there, and it was very interesting to hear your story, how you got into astrology, and the health side of things as well, your own health struggles. But in that episode as well, interestingly, I think we were recorded in December, and then you were talking about, I think it was mainly focused towards Brexit, so there was this huge divide and everyone was really stressed out, and it was forcing us to really look inside and like look at our relationships and community and all of that. And then you said later in the year there was going to be another huge event that happens that stresses everyone and is like another challenge from the universe, which coincides with what's going on currently with the whole coronavirus thing. So from an is that the term, or an astrologer's perspective, what's in store for the rest of 2020, particularly around the whole coronavirus issue?
So astrologically, like the thing is about this Pluto-Saturn conjunction that we as astrologers were talking about in January was like, no one could have predicted it exactly. We could have had many possibilities. A few people said pandemics, to be fair, but it kind of started and it was simmering away in early January, kept hush hush. But the triggering of it was Mars, and Mars is like the bringer of diseases. So the minute that Mars really entered Capricorn and started, like in astrology, the outer planets are a bit like, that's like Pluto and Saturn. They kind of load up the gun, but Mars, when Mars moves over the point where perhaps they were before, that's when it pulls the trigger. Because Mars is like action, it cuts, it makes things happen, it's the yang energy, it's the activation energy, right? So this is why we saw it all kicking off. Now, I'm not an expert in mundane astrology. Really, my domain is personal and personal evolution. That said, when Saturn moved into Aquarius, which was literally when social distancing happened, you kind of break it down in astrology. You have Aquarius, which is large groups of people, social gatherings, the collective, it's online. And then you have Saturn there, which is restriction imposed by authority, limitation, government. There is no more obvious Saturn in Aquarius word than social distancing. It's literally not. Like, it's hilarious. And then obviously Saturn is work. It's our daily work as well. It's like businesses. And Aquarius, everything's gone online. And it was literally like overnight. But it moved there, and for a week it kind of hung out there and not much happened. But then Mars got there and bang, there we were. And it's like now we're going through this whole energy that's a bit like a hurry up and wait energy. It's really funny. And like we also had a lot at the moment since this coronavirus really came about was when Mercury initially went into Pisces. This is when we started hearing about it. And then it retrograded. We had a Mercury retrograde. Now, Mercury is basically the lungs. It's respiratory. Pisces is poisons and disease and immune system. Mercury is also the media, communication, what we're like newspapers, what we're being told. And Pisces is also like elusive and a bit deceiving, and you're not really sure. So you put these together and you kind of have this mishmash of immune systems going to, to pot, lungs getting messed up. Pisces is something where there's no limits, it can't be contained. And then you have Mercury retrograding, so it's like triple times that, it kind of was very inflated. And at the points where there were full moons, which is when celestial bodies are really heightened, it's where everything astrologically is heightened, the word lunatic. We had all that kicking off. All at those points, those lunations, those cycles of the moon. But the reason it's been drawn out so long is because Mercury's come back into Pisces. Now it's going forward, but it's meeting up with Neptune. And it's literally the most elusive energy possible. So you'll notice that on like Facebook and everything, conspiracies are flying around. You've got people fighting over their beliefs. It's just crazy. And it's, no one knows the truth, right? No one. A lot of people have some idea that they're being deceived. So all of this is playing out. And as an astrologer, I'm like, do you know what? As is the macrocosm, so what we're seeing play out on a collective is the microcosm. There's nothing that we can see in the outside world, in my belief, that isn't based on an inner kind of consciousness that we've got going on, like, because it's law of attraction. So as a collective, what we're experiencing is a manifestation outwardly of our inner shadow. And it's really asking us, and it's asking us throughout 2020 with these big Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter movements, because they're all big players. The Jupiter-Pluto conjunction now that's happening is asking us about truth. And Jupiter truth is like wisdom and the truth of the universe. Pluto truth is like, what's the actual truth of who you are? Are you deceitful? Where does your truth lie? Does it lie in fear or love? Where is your power? Is it outside of you in control? Because Pluto is control and like deception, but in a different way, like political kind of deception. There will be a big unraveling of truth, which I know some people are very happy about. That won't come till 2020, December 2020, I don't think. But it's also asking us individually, you know, in ourselves, when Jupiter comes along and amplifies our Plutonian energy, which is our shadow, our sense of fear and control and real deep wounding, it's like, how can we choose this time in isolation when we're no longer distracted? Because Pluto is like bringing crisis to show the absolute bare bones of what there is. And like, we're literally now having no distractions. We can't escape our family dynamics, if that's who we live with. We can't escape our fear about health, if that's our issue. We can't escape our compulsions and tendencies to, I don't know, over-exercise, if that's our compulsion, because we're limited. We're having stuff put onto us like a retreat. It's like we've been forced into a retreat. So it's like, are you going to choose to be panicking about everything we cannot control and all the limitation, or are you going to lean into and say, do you know what, can't control this, I'm going to dig deep into my psyche and unearth really, who am I? Because if every single person did that, this will affect the outcome of it. So astrology is not just one outcome and that's it. It's, these are the energies that are lending themselves for you to evolve. Pluto in its highest expression is power deep within, which then changes the outward vibration. But it's also power without, where your inner vibration, because you're abusing yourself through negligence, is then reflected in authority. And I don't want to say this, I don't want to start bashing on at governments and saying we don't know anything about the powers that be, but we don't know everything. And so we're handing our power over all the time. Firstly, when we don't choose the power of choice within ourselves and act on compulsion and programming, even when sometimes we're aware of it, but then we give it away through law of attraction. We allow ourselves to be puppets, you know? I'm not saying people are puppets, but I'm just saying the point that I'm making is we actually have a lot of power to change things. And right now, I always remind myself, if anyone's thinking, oh my God, the world's so terrible, What are we going to do? Social distancing, wherever people are, whether it's about they're a conspiracist or whether they're, you know, bashing on that the media have got it wrong, it's irrelevant really, because the energy is still the same. It's calling us to go in and examine ourselves. And why is it we're so hell-bent on a conspiracy? Why is it we're so anti-vaccine? Can we see wisdom in everything? Can we embrace everything? And sometimes when we don't have a say, how do we handle it then? You know, I've got a huge fear of being vaccinated. And like, we can choose to see things from that fear-based consciousness or an involvement consciousness, and that will affect what plays out, which is probably not what people want to hear because it makes them feel responsible. But what I will say is, in order for the mass consciousness to evolve to a place of more benefit and true freedom, which I genuinely believe is on the other side of this when Saturn and Jupiter meet in Aquarius at the end of 2020, because Aquarius is humanitarian, freedom, the collective. Saturn is new structures. Jupiter is, you know, it's good. It only brings good, really, expands. It's new structures in a way that benefits the collective. It's like a power to the people kind of thing. And the next 10 years will be restructuring the politics, everything that underpins that, I hope. But it requires us now, if we are quote unquote awake, or whatever we like to say we are, it requires us to lead by example, not the need to be right. It requires us to gently shepherd and gently listen. And if, say, there's that experiment about 1,000 monkeys, you know, there's the 100 monkeys that learn to peel bananas and cook or something random like that, I don't even know. And without showing the other 900 monkeys, the other 900 monkeys actually like learned how to do it, because the mass consciousness of that population was being uplifted. So it's up to those people who are quote unquote awake or aware to not fall into anxiety, to see it, to see their depression, to see their frustration, to see their discomfort, and keep going into it, to not run away from it, which is what this full moon will bring up, is serenity. And serenity is not freedom from the storm. It's not escaping the chaos. It's not avoiding stuff. It's the peace within it. So if you ask me what's going to happen in 2020, potentially the evolution of humanity is really beginning now. There will be there's going to be a financial meltdown for sure. It's just because historically, every time we see this in humanity, astrologically, there's been the square of Saturn and Uranus, which is happening now. So yes, economically, but it brings opportunity and innovation. Those are the important things. It will make us revalue money, which is unset. It's a given because it's about money, but it will revalue money. We will. It's like, one of the things I was going to say, yeah, and by the end of 2020, it will look so different. I think September will be a hard month. I think it's going to be a difficult summer. September, we might see a kind of rise again of this, maybe of this infection, because you've got like a kind of aspect going on with Mars where it is now. It's going to be doing a few problems in September, but it could be wrong. It could be more to do with the banking and the politics. Anything that's been underhanded politically, you know, if we are being frazzled to death by 5G, which I don't know, I'm not a PhD physicist or whatever, but if we are, you know, that will come out. Full disclosure will happen, and it will start now. And what I will say is, every single time there has been a Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, like there is going to be in December 2020, a world leader has been dethroned, shot, killed, fallen ill, or come out of power. So expect a big change there. So, yeah, so bold statements. But it's like, yeah, it's, we have the choice, is what I'm saying, you know. Astrology can predict, but it depends where we are as humans and how we want to integrate what's coming. So I don't know if that answers your question.
Absolutely. It's answered so many questions, and I even feel calmer, more relaxed from you just saying all of that. So, and I've been trying actively to reframe things and look at the positive things that have coming out of this. And thankfully, like, none of my family members have been affected by it at this moment in time. And my business is pretty similar to how it has been, because it is an online business. So I do feel for those who have lost their jobs or have been cut hours and things, and looking at even the air pollution and environment improving in this short period of time, like less flights, less traffic. So we can take positive things out of it. So I really love that timeline that you just give us and that reframe about the whole situation. And I've heard that as well with the resurgence of the virus later in the year, potentially. People are saying it's sometimes due to immunity, like coming closer to winter, like the summer months, it may calm down a little bit because the weather's warmer, but astrologically it sounds like there's some other reasons behind that. And even in 10 years time there may be another thing, because some of these, I don't know if you saw like the books where it predicted the Wuhan virus. It's like a book from like decades ago, and it was saying that in 2020 this virus kind of attacks the respiratory system, and then it's going to happen again 10 years later. So maybe that's something to look for as well. But yeah, I really love that, and I think people are really going to feel better after listening to you explain that in a bit more detail. It's a bit all up in the air at the moment.
Yeah, and it has been hard for people. Like, I'm not going to say that. Like, for me, my whole life has turned upside down. I'm having a personal I could look at this and be like, my life has gone to shit. I have uncertainty in bags, right? But all of the work I've been doing up until this point, and this is the whole thing, it shows you who you really are. Who are you in uncertainty? Who are you when everything's been stripped away? Because do you turn to anxiety in the form of a conspiracy? Do you turn to anxiety in the form of I need to be right about what I don't know? Can we embrace ambivalence? Can we get comfortable not knowing? Can we have comfortable knowing we control absolutely nothing apart from really how we feel? And you're so right. And the one thing I wanted to say was also in winter, Ayurvedically, it's Kapha season. We're going to go through Vata season in autumn, which is the lung and large intestine season. And you know, it's a lung illness. This is September. We get the dry air come in. So it dries out and it irritates. This is why a lot of people get their dry coughs in autumn. But in winter, then they get the phlegmy Kapha coughs. And it's a Kapha creating illness, isn't it? So my advice to people would be to get ahead, you know, and get their lung tonics ready. And I'm sure you'll be sharing loads of that, but, you know, get their Air doTERRA blend on, get their On Guard on, propolis, this, that, the other, multivitamins, vitamin D. It's all we can do, right?
Exactly. And I think for me, it is learning to be less controlling, because I'm a bit of a control freak, I admit. And for you, I know that you've like really invested in yourself during this time. So like a business coach, studying at the College of Naturopathic Medicine, like really just really using this time to trust and believe that this is the time to prioritize yourself and your business and your future. So I really applaud you, because other people that'd be the last thing on their list, but you understand that this is the right thing for you to do, and it's the time is perfect. You've got a little bit extra time maybe to look into doing some of these things, whereas the rest of the year you may have pushed it off and complained that you never have time to, for some people, start writing the novel and start doing some of these meditation practices, and know that they have their time, like, oh, do I really want to do this? Is this something that I'm interested in? And on the whole personality thing of being a Virgo and having that type A kind of perfectionist trait, what I also thought would be a good idea during this recording would be to go through some of the most like the best and the worst traits of each astrological sign, because during the first episode it was really focused on my birth chart. So if you haven't yet listened to that, definitely go back, because you really made some big connections that were definitely true in my like health and history and family, all of that. So everyone was feeling a little bit left out after listening to the first one. They're like, oh, I want to know what I should look at and some of my traits. So I thought that would be a good idea. So do you want to start with like January? I don't know. I've got like a list here of the different signs. So we'll give a couple of positives or negatives for each one, starting with those born. Who's it easiest done? Like starting in January? Aries. Okay.
Aries.
So yeah, go ahead. Aries, a positive and negative traits. Bearing in mind that these aren't like going to be totally accurate for some people, and it's a bit of fun. So if we say anything that offends you, just take it on the chin.
Listen,
we're all
guys,
friends here.
I'm a girl from Warsaw, so like whatever I say, just remember I'm from Warsaw, not always a joke, so it's fine. And you know, I mean it with tongue in cheek, but all right, so
and one question, like, why does it start with Aries?
So that's the astrological beginning of the wheel. Aries is the beginning.
It's like March to April.
Yeah, that's the astrological new year.
Okay.
And so funny because, okay, so I know I'm backtracking, but the astrological new year, the energy's playing out then. It was like all this Pluto. It's going to be a big year. So I won't go into that more because personally for people, it's going to be massive. But it depends where, of course, in their unique astrology. So if you have Aries strong in your chart, so if you've got an Aries North node, people might not know this, so I won't do that. Okay, so if you have any Aries that you know of in your chart in a progressive place, or
this
whatever.
Is why they need to work with you, Cassie, so they can get
I literally did a reading. She was like, "Oh my god, just they always are." Okay, so the highest expression of Aries is the humble warrior, the spiritual warrior. The lowest expression, okay, let's start with that. Stubborn, arrogant, single-minded, too independent, like a F you, I can do it myself attitude, starts things but can't finish them, speaks more than they do, marathon rather than a sprint. The highest expression, they're like a rocket ship, they're highly energetic, they're charged, they're masculine, they're forward moving, they're truth telling, and they know what they want and they will just go and get it, sometimes without thinking, and they are generally very playful and nice, but they can again just be a bit hot-headed and fast to anger and a bit sort of a bolshy, you know.
Am I right with mine? Because listening back, I'm Virgo in Sun in Virgo, Moon in Aries, ascending Libra, but you said I was like very Scorpio-esque just with my whole chart.
Yeah, you have 3 planets and 4 placements in Scorpio.
So would I still be linked to like the Aries with all of that? Because it did sound like some of my traits that you just listed.
Yeah, because your Aries moon is strong. It's like you're most impulsive inside. So I have Aries moon at the exact same degree as you. So we're like
soul sisters.
Also ridiculously impulsive, which now makes sense as to why we booked a bloody trip to LA.
I know we've had to cancel. Fun. Like the second time speaking to you, I was like, yeah, I'll come.
Well, you know what? You need some Aries in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's move to Taurus. Taurus, to me, generally are a bit more slow. They're quite generous. This is the best expression of them. They're very down to earth. They're truth tellers. They're honest, really honest sometimes, to the point where you're like, you lack any tact, but it's fine. They are generally a bit slower. They can be very stubborn. They can be very slow to change. They love the senses. For Taurus, they are the archetype of like the earth, sensual kind of queen. They want to experience all the sense pleasures, smells, touch, sound, taste. They love food generally. They need their environment nice. So Taurus are really here to be earthy and sensual, and just, they really mellow out any space. Like I have Mars in Taurus, which really mellows me out. People say how laid back I am, and I'm like, I am, but if you catch my Aries moon, I'm different. So it's where these things play out. The low vibration of Taurus, like I say, can be stubborn, they can be lazy, they can be almost so laid back they don't do anything. I don't know really else. What else?
I don't know. I don't think I know any Taurus people. Do I have any of that in my chart?
I have Taurus in my chart, quite progressive. We can be very possessive, and that's over people, things. It's all about material, so we can be possessive. That is true for Taurus, actually. Yeah. All right. I'm trying to like not keep it too long, because you know the people who are like Pisces will be like, I'm not for ages.
Yeah, keep going.
Gemini, your air, so their chit chat. Sometimes Gemini. I had a Gemini friend. She talked at me for 3 hours on a plane without coming up for air, without asking me one question, without even giving me space to answer. Yeah. Boom. 3 hours. I timed it. Well, it was 2 hours, 57 minutes. I timed it.
That's
I was like,
enough.
what? Yeah. No. Gemini there. I'm going to say that's like their worst. Podcasting, great. But yeah, Jesus.
Do they have like the split personality, or is that just like a classic?
What it is with Gemini, they say that, but they're here, their mystery school is to be curious and playful. They are here to understand all possible aspects of truth. This is why people say Gemini are so like unreliable. They can be, but it's because they're so curious. They need to visit things twice to really get a concept of the truth, because opposite Gemini is Sagittarius, which is wisdom and truth of a higher level. But the other part is Gemini, where it discovers it by exploring different things constantly. They can be very anxious. Their mind can be really scatty. They can be sort of like relentless and reckless, and they can be very aloof, very difficult to read. But it's simply because they generally aren't grounded at all. They're ruled by Mercury, so they can be really big gossips. Not painting a good picture of them, really, am I? But like Christina Rice is a Gemini, so at their highest they're providing useful information, they're open to all truth, they're good at talking, they're good communicators, they genuinely want to communicate, and that's really, and they seem to have a lot of energy, you know. Gemini seem to always be moving, and it doesn't tire them. But they are prone to nervous disorders, so more the nervous system, and again the lungs, so yeah.
And how does astrology tie in with like Ayurveda and doshas? Does it, or is it just that there's like similar?
It does. It's all linked. I'll try and add them as I go. So Gemini's Vata, air. It's Vata, so air. It's dry, light. So they want to have more demulcent, grounding, maybe kapha foods. It really depends what's in their chart, and it's not as clear as like just because you're a Gemini sun, because you could have loads of Taurus, and if then I'm telling you to have kapha foods, Taurus are gross. They just get fatter and fatter, so we don't want to give them all the earth foods. We want to give them light, spicy, hot foods. So yeah, Taurus, light, spicy, hot. They're prone to throat trouble. Taurus, they're often good singers. And I'll backtrack. Aries, they tend to hot-headed is literally an expression of Aries. Fire, they're more prone to head stuff, headaches, heat rising.
Would there be more pitta?
Pitta, yeah. Usually, very
pitta AF.
Pitta AF. Okay, Cancer. So Cancer are at their best empathic, nurturing, very sensitive, really good at holding space, very mothering, very safe. Cancer is like the womb, very intuitive as well. At their worst, personal experience, had a Cancer ex. Close-minded, the victim, like they go into their shell, They worry about shit without trying to change it. If they're very close-minded, they can play the martyr, the victim. They can hold a grudge. They can be overly sentimental. They can hoard. And Cancer is a water sign. I would say they're more, I wouldn't know actually. Cancer's mutable, right? It's not mutable. I've told you a filthy lie there. I don't know what Cancer is, and hang on. Cancer's the breast, the lungs. It's more Kapha. I would say it was more Kapha. Probably. It would depend on the ascendant. So your Cancer is the breasts because it's the mother. So often when you see cancers, you know, in sort of a health place, you want to be aware of that. All right, who's after that? Leo. So Leo, fire again. And Leo is the solar plexus chakra. It's the sun. It's the center. So at their worst, they can be egomaniacs. They worry what people think. They need attention constantly. They become so extrovert to get attention. But their actual need in this life and their experience is to experience true self-love. And that doesn't come from outside, as we know. It comes from inside. So with Leo, it's all about the heart. They can be very warm, very generous, very, very affectionate. They're leaders, but they have to lead with love and not with the need for approval and power. If we think about Donald Trump, he has Mars in Leo on his ascendant. It's very strong. So it's like a dominating, kind of powerful, sort of gaudy energy. You know, he doesn't really give a shit, but he's not very loving either. You know, it's sort of like very brash, so it can be that way, to the point where you think, are you even aware how big your ego is? To the point where it's quite funny. It's quite funny. And they can be great performers. They're really creative. They love children. They love animals. So I really like Leos when they're evolved.
And that's a fire sign?
Fire. Yeah, fire, Piton. And they just have to be careful. They can be very messy, but good cooks. They might like food a bit too much, you know. They can be prone to sort of stomach troubles, you know, like too much fire and acid in the stomach. I have a friend who's a Leo sun. She's just got fallen pregnant very recently, and her sickness and nausea is so intense because she's got so much fire in the stomach, you know.
And what about like water signs? Like what would that,
which is quite interesting,
what would that kind of indicate?
Depends. Because with Cancer, it's all about them being ruled by the moon. So often it's like retention and fluctuation, and it's like they're constant. It's their moods. It's more their mental mood that's changing. Whereas with Scorpio, as we'll get to, it's stagnation and blockage. And it's like Scorpio rules like poo and toxins. Do you know what I mean? So it's more like a backup of water. It's stagnant water.
You said I had a lot of Scorpio energy.
Yeah.
Thanks for that.
That's why you do enemas all the time.
I know.
It's very Scorpio.
It all makes sense now. Oh, that's funny.
Okay. Yeah, it's funny, right? Okay, then you have Virgo. Virgo, when they are out of balance and when they need balancing, they're an earth sign, but they're very Vata, Kapha. They're very they're ruled by Mercury, so they can have a nervous energy. That at their worst, they can be critical, which causes them stress, perfectionist, worry about the structure of things too much rather than seeing the whole, seeing the nitty gritty, the need for everything to be perfect and controlled and in place when it maybe isn't in their power. In their best, they are the earth priestess. They are the server. They serve the planet. They are able to see where things are not perfect and understand where that falls in nature, you know, rather than it having to be perfect right now. They're open to it hanging there, and they can allow things to settle and then move back to it. So they're able to move a bit more. But Virgos are the great organizers, and they are really good at helping people take abstract concepts and create them into some sort of tangible form. So like knowledge being structured, for example, you doing a PCOS course is really helpful because it makes it packageable to someone to serve them. Virgos have to be careful. Their digestive system is way more likely to get out of whack, especially in a Vata way, depending. But if they're stressed, they'll get it first in their digestion for sure. And they are generally more sensitive beings in terms of what they can tolerate in their body. Libra is large intestine, so that's like the colon, ascending, descending colon. So they obviously, this is so funny that you do so many enemas, because it's like really Libra, Scorpio, but yeah, it's all about balance for Libra, as we know. But in their highest form, they're serene, their serenity, they lead with love in relationships. They're able to separate themselves and find common ground and harmonize, and really, in a way that in their highest expression, really do see the other. But they require freedom, they require the space to do that. If it's expected of them, it'll just piss them off. Like, it has to be a choice for Libra. They like aesthetics, they like things to look good, they enjoy good music, they're very refined. In their lower expression, they care too much what people think. Again, they help people in order to really secure something back. They can be aloof, they can flick from relationship to relationship to relationship, they can be flirtatious, often when it's like not good for them. They could be cheats. They can be too compromising, to the point where then, I think I said that, they might use it against someone. And they can just generally be a bit like aloof. Again, all the air signs can be, but Libras again are an air sign, more prone to Vata kind of energy. Yeah. And they can have an ego as well, Librans. I think it can get a bit ego-y, because they're very hell-bent on what things look like and how they are seeing themselves constantly through the other, if that makes sense.
I hope people see them.
Yeah, in a way. Yeah, kind of.
And what happens if you've got like two signs in your chart that are like very opposite?
Then you often will have a placement which is called an opposition. You also have another placement called a square, and this is where people tend to feel like bits of themselves want completely different things, what I call a needs conflict or fragmentation, and it requires you to work quite carefully. That's why I do astrological counselling, because it's essentially coaching, but I can see it on a piece of paper instead of trying to dig deep for it for like 3 months. I can just go, right, let's talk about this, and then it will trigger that. So there's usually a need to integrate both into the human experience, because that's why it's being handed to us in our astrology. But what I will say is different points of life will call on that for different things. So like for you, when you might go into a 7th house annual perfection year, this is when your moon is more prevalent, and the things that come up around that will come up for you. Whereas if you're in a 12th house annual perfection, things about your sun will come up. And the planets mature at different ages. So you might have both, but you realize them at different times. Because in astrology, we've got a whole lifetime, right, to integrate all these aspects. We couldn't just do it all in 1 year, like get married, have kids, learn to walk, learn to talk, learn to eat food, get our degree before we were 1 year old. We would actually explode. So it's the same with astrology. So different times call for different things. And some are more problematic. That's just the nature of it. It just means some of us have to work harder, but the potential is always there in everyone's chart. So it's actually better if you have conflicting, because it requires greater awareness. So you evolve a bit more, I think.
And what are the most compatible signs and the least compatible signs?
Well, I've still got a few more traits to do.
Okay, let's finish them, and then we'll do an overview of the most and least compatible.
Okay. Oh,
will not cause any arguments in relationships. We're like, we're not meant to be together.
Me and my partner now, he is literally my soulmate. You're never going to have all good stuff. Because when you do relationship astrology, there's always going to be something difficult. Honestly, you need the difficult. Otherwise there's just, where's the tension? Where's the chemistry? But you don't want, there's certain good difficult and there's bad difficult, and yeah, we'll get into that. Okay, so after Libra, there's Scorpio. They are Kapha, water. They are, okay, I know Scorpio works, I got loads of Scorpio. So highest expression of Scorpio: intuitive, deep, transformative, powerful. I'm just basically complimenting myself now, I think. Powerful, deep, transformative, honest, loyal, the most loyal, extremely wise at their best, and able to really penetrate any situation and understand things at their very deep depths. At their worst, hold a grudge, shut off, comes across as arrogant, but it's not. They're just shut down, fearful, spiteful, unforgiving. Yeah, they can be quite cruel, manipulative. I could be so vile and manipulative and horrible if I wanted to be. I would know exactly how to manipulate my partner into anything. I wouldn't, but I would be able to. But I never do. But that's the power of Scorpio. We can be Hitler or Mother Teresa, depending on what we choose, right? And they need to watch out for stagnancy and their sex organs, that's really important for Scorpios. So regular detoxification protocols, which I don't do. And
you need the enemas, see, I'm telling you.
I love colonics so much. I love them, but I wouldn't know how to do an enema at home. Maybe
it'll probably save you like a good £100, however much, because they like bump up the price, so you can do it at home.
I mean, now that I've moved in with my partner and his family, maybe I'll wait till
yeah, maybe not the best time to whip out the enema kit.
Brilliant.
So I've got morning, guys.
Yeah, the date night. #date night. Yeah. Let's try it. Couples enema together.
Yes. Love it.
Okay, last 4. Okay, Sagittarius, at their worst: aloof, undecisive, wacky, extrovert, can't settle, want to possess but do not want to be possessed. At their best: explorative, a philosopher. At their worst, they can be really dogmatic and like a zealot. But otherwise open-minded, explorative, philosopher, explorer, adventurer. They are ruled by the hips and the knees. They have to be careful with their knees, and they're more prone to inflammation as they're a fire sign. Capricorn are earth sign. I have loads of Capricorn. We are our worst. We are self-doubting, fearful, OCD, controlling, closed off, aloof, detached, too rigid. At our best, Capricorns are able to real business leaders. They're able to create a lot of wealth. They are able to lead and inspire others to create long-term change. They're able to they are the mountain goat. They will never stop striving for more. They can be really good perfectionists, but at their worst, it can be bad. They have to watch out for bones, skin, hair. They have to be really mindful of those things to look after them and nurture them. So that's Capricorns. Then you have Aquarius. They rule the ankles. Aquarians are the unicorns of the zodiac. They're weird, wonderful, wacky, different. They need to watch out for being aloof or not on this planet. They need to watch out for not knowing where the line is, because to them they're starting to detach from reality. What's important for Aquarius to understand how their uniqueness can then benefit the collective in a humanitarian way. So it's not about being completely aloof, it's about being unique in order to benefit humanity, and they really are here to just do weird and wacky shit, and that's fine. And they are Vata air. They need to be very mindful of their bodies and their health in terms of they need to ground. Their nervous system is also susceptible to kind of like burnout, I guess is the right word, because Uranus rules the nervous system, and Aquarius. They can be a bit withered and sort of bony often, or look a bit alien. And some of them can just be very broad. It depends sort of which way it's played out for them. And then you've got Pisces. Pisces are the feet. They have to worry about poisons and toxicities. It's not good for Pisces generally to eat anything like shellfish, heavy with mercury, or heavy metals. They must eat organic. They must have filtered water more than anyone else. At their worst, they can be addictive, escapists. They can constantly run away, constantly trying to seek something that they will never find outside of themselves. They're really looking for the connection to God. But at their worst, they can really kind of be victims or heroes, and they constantly fall into that dynamic. But Pisces are capable of great love. They're capable of being really powerful healers. They're capable of experiencing oneness. They're naturally super spiritual and clairvoyant, as are the other water signs. So they have a unique wisdom, but they really need to learn in this life. It's not about escaping. It's about bringing those abstract, universal, hidden concepts and other realms and dimensions into the 3D to actually help them benefit humanity, a bit like Aquarius. So there's the rundown. In terms of compatibility, honestly, it helps to see a professional astrologer. Mm-hmm. But like after 6 months, because if you like decide when you're dating someone and you look at their charts, you've already made a million assumptions about them, you know? So it's not good to do.
The second text is like, what time were you born?
that was mine and Alex's second message ever exchange. And then I'm like, your mum's a teacher, and he's like, what? I'm like, but yeah, it doesn't help. It doesn't help because I'm aware of all the places we're not compatible. And in my last relationship, I was like, but it should work. And actually, no, it's because he wasn't going to evolve, so it wasn't going to. So it really depends where they're evolving. And also, there's a technique I look at. You can see if you're soulmates, but it's quite an advanced technique. But sometimes one person is one soulmate and not the other one. Like, so then what do you do? Like, luckily for me and Alex, we're both each other's soulmates. But yeah, generally, air signs go with air signs, fire with fire, earth with earth. Opposing signs, so like Aries and Libra, Taurus and Scorpio, it's not always great. Like me and Alex had that, but it's not always great because you are Venus and Mars. Men are from Mars, women are for Venus. It literally can be that. So again, in relationships, it's about how do you use the chart to evolve. I don't want to say like either, because compatibility, it's huge.
Yeah, like the most similar signs.
Most similar.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to say ones that other astrologers wouldn't say based on what I feel. Scorpio and Capricorn can be great. Libra and... I actually think Libra and Leo can be great. Libra and Pisces can be great, but they might never, ever decide where to go or what to do. Cancer is really good with like a Pisces or actually a Capricorn or Libra, I think. Taurus, they can be good with Scorpio actually. Taurus and like Gemini, no. Like it can happen, but it's difficult. Gemini does well with air signs and Sagittarians. Gemini and Scorpio can be fatal or great. It just depends. Let me think. Virgo do well with Pisces, but they also do very well with Librans and Capricorns. Virgo tend to do quite well with a lot of people. That Leo's not so much. Let me think. Have I missed anyone out? Probably. Oh,
Aquarius?
Yeah, Aquarius. They just do well with other Aquarians. Aquarius and Capricorn. I
Other
mean,
weirdos.
other weirdos, other unicorns. They can do well with Pisces, and they can do well with like Leo, maybe Aries. They don't do well with Scorpio, generally. Well, yeah, no, generally. So there you go.
I bet people are listening, they're like, oh my gosh, this is making so much sense. They'll be ringing people from the past like, what sign are you?
Yeah, 100%. And if you see it in siblings, like, that's when you're like, I have no idea why my siblings are so different. They're like Mars and Venus. Then it's like, it can be really damaging for the children. So that's why a lot of parents will benefit from seeing astrologers, because they can understand how to mediate. Because like my brother was all Gemini Aquarius, I'm Scorpio Capricorn. It was terrible. It was awful. And we're still completely different, you know. So it really does count.
What about people who don't know the birth time?
It's difficult. You can actually find out. So honestly, like, just find out. Okay. And the way you find out is you write to, it's in England, it's your mother's medical record that your time of birth is on. So my mum had died, so I had to go to like go to an archive. But I think they keep it for like 25 years anyway.
Okay. Yeah, and it's worth having.
Yeah, and if you don't know, you'd have to book in with like an electional astrologer or a birth chart rectification. And what they'll do is it's cost a lot though. Electional astrology is way cheaper, but you can only ask one question, like 1 or 2 questions. And what they do is pull up a chart for that moment. So it's not a birth chart. And rectification is like a long process where they're like experts. So
it can be done. It's just a bit of an effort, but it's probably worth it if you.
It's worth it. Yeah.
Can figure out so much. And last time you gave me a lot of information about my chart. Was there anything that you think we missed that's important, or any like key things just to reiterate again?
How old are you now? What
25.
year?
I was born in 1994.
Oh, so you're in your second house year anyway, so this is all about money for you. Also, yeah, this is all about finance for you this year.
In a good way?
Well, where's your Mars? Yeah, well, actually, it's literal this year. Through your career, whatever you put into your career will directly put into your financial pocket. It's not that exciting, really. The bigger action for everyone is happening with this Pluto Saturn, and for you, it's moving into the 5th house again. Redefining how is it you have fun. You need to be having fun. If you're not, it's really important. I can't do it off the cuff like that. Right, hang on. Oh, okay. Good news.
Start with the good, please.
So you know this whole bloody thing about moving in? September looks like next year. I mean, I know you know it's going to happen, but I do see it perhaps being delayed a little longer.
Until September, hopefully.
Hopefully not, no. Hopefully not. Because I'm not looking at it exactly and when you initiate the move, but what I will say is next year is all about creating a home for yourself, because your ascendant in your solar return falls in your 4th house, and you're going to experience a lot more power next year. There's going to be a lot of setting foundations in the home. You're going to feel like settled and like you can really expand your business from home. So it's going to be a lot nicer. Yeah, I'm literally doing this off the cuff now. Funnily enough, your podcast might start to really become your focus next year. Like you might start like I know, getting income from your podcast, for example, next year.
Mm-hmm.
So doing your third house
sponsors come my way.
I know, tell me about it, trying to get a sponsor. And let's look, when is this likely to happen? Right, so I reckon, okay, if this house thing, it's 100%, it's gonna, like, you might experience a slowing down because Mars is going retrograde. I think July time, you'll see the movement of that. I think. I want to say July.
And that would have been like a whole year since we like bought the flat and everything.
Hang on. Let's just double check the dates. Oh, sorry. May the 11th, it starts to retrograde. Oh, for goodness sake. It's not giving me any dates. Should get my dates really before we go on air, but oh. This is not helpful. So I think July. I reckon by July you should be in there, hands down.
Okay.
Hands down. July, June. Yeah. Because that's when Saturn retrogrades, because at the moment it's moving forward. So, but it will slow down May the 11th, like the day before we were meant to go away.
We're meant to.
Well,
I know. It's just not going to happen. We were like, let's hope and pray. Let's ask the tarot cards what we should do. And it was just like, unknown, unsure. We don't know.
did it again and didn't tell you, but I was like, this is awful. Like, it's saying absolutely categorically no. And I was like, I'm just not going to tell her.
No. I knew deep down I was hoping for the best, but we'll have to reschedule when everything dies down a little bit.
Well, you know what I mean? Right now, it's time to retreat. This is the North Node in Cancer, returning to the womb, the home. It's all about these things. So, you know what? Like, the fact that we did it was an action.
Yeah.
And so it's shown us that we can.
Exactly. And I've got everything planned, as you know. I've got like every minute of the trip already planned, so we can just move that to another month. No problem.
Yeah, exactly. I am sad about the llamas.
I know. Yeah, we're going to stay at this llama. What was it, like a farm? A teepee farm in California?
Sure. I saw llamas and just begged you to book.
We were sold by the llamas, and they did goat milk coffees as well.
I bought some goat milk like about a month ago, and
you said it smells like a farm.
It
smells and tastes like a farm.
Makes me want to vomit thinking of it.
It may taste different with Californian goats. You never know.
Maybe.
Anyway, thank you so much for this. This has been so good as always. And before we recorded this, I sent you a list of potential talking points, and you were like, I think there's a lot of things that we need to cover here. So I've got a list of subjects that we can come back to. So you'll be a regular guest on the podcast, I'm sure. Yeah. And everyone definitely, yeah, exactly. A little catch up every few months and just let us all know what to prepare for, any other pandemics that come our way. Hopefully not. But everyone needs to listen to episode 46. Everyone needs to listen to Cassie's podcast, Modern Goddess. And I was a guest, was it a few weeks ago?
It was a while ago.
A few months ago now, actually. Talking all about hormones. And yeah, thank you so much, Cassie. This has been fun.
Thank you. And take care, my love. Thanks for having me on.